Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert feels like a game trying to be every epic adventure at once. A massive open-world action game, a cinematic RPG, a boss rush spectacle, a sandbox playground, and somehow a weird fantasy road trip all in one. And whether that ambition completely works or not, you can't deny the scale. This is a huge game, with an average playtime around 93 hours and completionist runs stretching into absurd territory. There's always something pulling you away from the main path. A strange dungeon, a massive creature waiting in the distance, a puzzle hidden in the environment, or some chaotic encounter that looks like it belongs in a completely different game. Not all of it lands perfectly, and sometimes the size can feel more overwhelming than exciting, but when Crimson Desert clicks, it really does feel like you're standing inside a fantasy world that refuses to slow down. It's messy, ambitious, sometimes uneven, but absolutely packed with things to see, fight, and get lost in.
Hiya! Ho! Ho! Use your eyes!
Father! Go!
Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 is the kind of RPG that doesn't just ask you to play a character. It asks you to live inside his struggle. You don't start as some legendary hero slicing through armies. You start weak, broke, unprepared, and painfully human, forced to learn everything the hard way. Every sword swing, every potion, every stolen coin, every muddy road feels like part of the journey. And that's why its 100+ hour average playtime doesn't feel like a number on a list. It feels like a life you slowly build. This is a game that wants you to slow down, breathe in the world, listen to conversations, get lost in side quests, and actually earn your place in medieval Bohemia. The story is bigger, the quests are richer, and the world feels more alive than ever. It's long, yes, but it rarely feels stretched. Because Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 makes every hour feel like another chapter in a brutal, grounded, unforgettable medieval adventure.
Rip your ass open! Don't think I won't cut you to pieces! I've been waiting for you! Now you'll see what we do with criminals! Come on then! I'm all yours. Now that's what I call an opener. Show what you're made of.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the kind of remake that doesn't just recreate a legendary game, it expands it until it feels almost impossible. What used to be a relatively small part of the original Final Fantasy VII has been turned into a massive, gorgeous, sometimes overwhelming journey that can easily swallow 90 hours before you even realize it. And if you're the type who needs to clear every region, master Queen's Blood, chase every side quest, and squeeze every last reward out of the Golden Saucer, that number can climb much, much higher. Rebirth is beautiful, emotional, and honestly kind of exhausting in the most Final Fantasy way possible. There are moments where it feels like the game has too much confidence, too many systems, too many distractions, but then it hits you with a character scene, a boss fight, or a piece of music that reminds you why this world still matters so much. It's huge, messy, heartfelt, and absolutely overflowing with ambition.
Something else.
S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Heart of Chornobyl. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Heart of Chornobyl is honestly the kind of game that makes every other long game feel like it's barely trying. This isn't a game you rush through. This is a slow, tense, brutal walk through a world that feels like it wants you dead every 5 minutes. The zone is massive, dangerous, and strangely hypnotic, pulling you deeper even when the story starts feeling confusing or completely off the rails. How Long to Beat puts the average playtime at around 65.5 hours, with completionist runs going well over 130 hours. And somehow, that still feels low. Because S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 isn't just about finishing missions, it's about getting lost, surviving bad decisions, limping back from impossible fights, and slowly realizing the world itself is the real enemy. It's huge, weird, frustrating, immersive, and for fans of this series, exactly the kind of exhausting journey they signed up for.
О, бандеролька пішла! Кис-кис, блохастый!
Metaphor ReFantazio.
Tougher than I thought.
Metaphor ReFantazio may not carry the Persona name, but the moment you step into its world, you can feel that same DNA running through every battle, bond, and emotional turning point. It takes that familiar structure, long journeys, party relationships, heavy themes, stylish combat, and wraps it in a darker fantasy world filled with politics, prejudice, ambition, and broken people trying to believe in something better. And yes, because of that, it is a seriously long ride. The average playtime sits around 88.5 hours, but compared to something like Persona 5 Royal, it feels a little tighter, a little more focused, and a little less like the game is determined to trap you forever. Conversations move faster, the pacing hits harder, and the fantasy setting gives the whole adventure a fresh sense of scale. It's still massive, still emotional, and still full of systems to lose yourself in. But Metaphor makes that time feel earned.
This battle's out. Let's go. Let's go. Burn! There's no way I'm stopping here.
Was that?
Hurry!
Let's hurry.
Let's give him a fight. This could be our chance.
Now get ready.
It's your
Take
call.
them all down.
We're here.
Full swoop.
The power of fire!
The next one will fall just as easy. Alright, how's that? Okay, let's give this all we've got. I won't hold back! Fire! A tough one!
The power of fire!
Elden Ring. Elden Ring is what happens when a Souls game stops being a maze and becomes an entire continent of pain, wonder, and bad decisions. From Software already made games that could eat dozens of hours, but Elden Ring takes that formula and throws it into a world so huge that even just following the main path feels almost impossible. You see a castle in the distance, then a cave, then a dragon, then some cursed underground city, and suddenly the boss you were supposed to fight 3 hours ago is a distant memory. The base game alone averages around 105 hours, and with Shadow of the Erdtree, that number can climb even higher. Yes, there are repeat bosses and side dungeons that stretch the journey, but the sense of discovery is still unmatched. Elden Ring is long because curiosity keeps winning. Every hill, ruin, and nightmare creature feels like it's hiding something, and most of the time it absolutely is. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is one of those games where the main story is only half the reason you lose 80+ hours of your life. Sure, there's a huge emotional journey here, full of friendship, legacy, identity, and all the beautifully dramatic chaos this series is known for, but then the game turns around and says, what if we also gave you a whole island-building side game, a ridiculous monster-collecting parody, and enough mini-games to make you forget the actual plot for 10 hours? And somehow, it all works. The average playtime sits around 85.5 hours, which feels right if you're actually playing it the way these games are meant to be played. Not rushing, not skipping the weird stuff, but fully embracing the madness. Infinite Wealth is heartfelt 1 minute, completely unhinged the next, and that balance is exactly why it stays so addictive. It's long, yes, but it rarely feels empty, because every detour feels like another strange little story waiting to happen.
Are you ready? Let's crazy! Crazy Delivery! また頼んでくれよな! Crazy! That's the engine! Crazy Delivery! Delivery 完了! おりゃりゃりゃりゃ! どんなもんだい!
締めに行くよ。
おうよ!
踊ってくださる？
喜んで!
いつでも。
行くぜ! I'll sue you! 寝てる! One yesterday.
Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
1500 is good. Your captain will be pleased.
I hate that guy.
Mass Effect Legendary Edition almost feels like cheating for a list like this, because it isn't just one game. It's an entire sci-fi trilogy stitched together into one massive emotional journey. But honestly, that's exactly why it belongs here. These games were built to be experienced as one long story, where choices carry forward, relationships evolve, mistakes follow you, and the galaxy slowly changes because of what you did hours and hours ago. Playing all 3 games together can take around 100+ hours, and that time adds up because Mass Effect makes you care. You're not just clearing missions, you're building a crew, earning trust, making impossible calls, and watching characters grow from strangers into people you genuinely don't want to lose. The ending may still divide people, but the journey itself is something special. Ambitious, personal, and incredibly memorable. Few games make a long playtime feel this connected, because by the end, it doesn't feel like a trilogy. It feels like one life lived across the stars. The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom takes the freedom of Breath of the Wild and basically says, what if we gave players even more ways to disappear for 100 hours? This is a game where the main quest is almost fighting for your attention, because every mountain, cave, sky island, strange machine, and suspicious-looking hole in the ground feels like it might lead to something incredible. The average playtime sits around 113 hours, and completionist runs can go far beyond that. But the real magic is how easy it is to forget you're even measuring time. You start by solving one problem, then suddenly you're building a flying disaster machine, exploring the depths, chasing shrines, or accidentally launching yourself into chaos. It's huge, playful, and sometimes overwhelming, especially if you played Breath of the Wild recently. But when it clicks, Tears of the Kingdom feels like a giant toy box built on top of an already legendary adventure. Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is one of those rare RPGs that feels impossible on paper. An old-school CRPG with deep choices, complex systems, huge consequences, and somehow the production value of a massive AAA blockbuster. And the wildest part is, it actually works. The world isn't endlessly huge in the traditional open-world sense, but every corner feels packed with secrets, characters, danger, and decisions that can spiral into something completely unexpected. That's why the average playtime sits around 117 hours, and completionist runs can easily push far beyond that. You're not spending time because the game is slow, you're spending time because every conversation, every fight, every hidden path feels like it might matter. And then there's replayability. Different builds, different companions, different choices, and of course, the dark urge, which turns the whole journey into something much darker and stranger. Baldur's Gate 3 isn't just long, it's deep, reactive, emotional, and one of the few games that truly earns every hour it asks from you. Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord.
Move, archers! Loose formation!
Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord is the kind of game that doesn't care about a simple beginning, middle, and end. It drops you into a living medieval chaos simulator where your story becomes whatever victory, betrayal, disaster, or badly planned siege you accidentally create. You can start as nobody, build an army, trade your way into power, marry into politics, conquer cities, lose everything, and somehow still convince yourself you're just playing for one more hour. The average playtime sits around 80 hours, but honestly, that number feels almost polite for a sandbox like this. Because Bannerlord isn't about racing toward credits, it's about building a legend slowly, battle by battle, mistake by mistake. Some players might wrap things up faster, while others can easily disappear into this world for hundreds of hours. And that's the magic of it. Bannerlord doesn't force a story on you, it gives you a world, a sword, an army, and says, go make one.
Footmen, kill them all!
Valheim. Valheim is one of those games where finished feels like a very loose word. Even now, it carries that early access energy where the world keeps growing, the systems keep expanding, and every new biome feels like another invitation to lose another 100 hours. On paper, you're surviving in a brutal Norse afterlife, building shelters, crafting gear, sailing across dangerous seas, and hunting down powerful bosses. But in practice, Valheim becomes something much bigger than that. It becomes the story of your first tiny hut, your first terrifying night in the forest, your first boat that probably gets destroyed, and that one long expedition where everything goes wrong but somehow becomes unforgettable. The average playtime already sits around 105 hours, and that's before the game even feels truly complete. What makes Valheim special is how naturally those hours disappear. You're not just grinding for resources, you're preparing, exploring, failing, rebuilding, and slowly turning a hostile world into something that feels like home. Satisfactory. Satisfactory is the kind of game that starts with a simple goal and slowly turns your brain into a factory blueprint. At first, you're just gathering resources, placing machines, connecting belts, and trying to make things work. Then, before you know it, you're standing on an alien planet, staring at a giant industrial monster you built yourself, wondering how one small production line turned into 150 hours of beautiful chaos. The average playtime sits around 152 hours, and honestly, that makes sense, because Satisfactory is basically one long, addictive lesson in efficiency, automation, and controlled madness. There is technically a story, mysteries to uncover, and an endpoint to reach, but the real journey is watching your messy little setup slowly evolve into something massive, smart, and strangely satisfying. It's not easy. It takes patience, planning, and a lot of trial and error. But when everything finally starts moving perfectly, Satisfactory gives you one of the best feelings in gaming. progress you built with your own hands. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition is a massive RPG, in a series already known for massive RPGs, and somehow this one still manages to feel ridiculous in scale. What makes it interesting is that it's not long because the story is constantly throwing huge twists at you. In fact, compared to other Xenoblade games, this one is more about the world, the systems, and the freedom to explore than some non-stop dramatic plot. Mira is the real star here. A dangerous alien planet filled with strange creatures, hidden locations, giant machines, and enough side content to make the hours disappear without warning. The average playtime sits around 102 hours, with completionist runs going even higher. And that makes sense because this is a game built around slowly learning how everything connects. The Definitive Edition adds even more story and extra content on top of an already huge experience. It's sprawling, systems-heavy, sometimes overwhelming, but if you love getting lost in a world that feels bigger than you, this one delivers exactly that. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous is not just a long RPG. It's the kind of game that looks at your free time, laughs, and then opens 100 more systems, quests, battles, paths, and moral disasters in front of you. This is a massive, old-school CRPG where every choice feels like it branches into something else, and every dungeon feels like it's hiding another layer of story, strategy, or suffering. The average playtime sits around 140 hours, and completionist runs can go well past 250, which is basically a small lifetime in gaming form. But the reason it lasts that long isn't just padding, it's scale. Huge companions, dense mechanics, mythic paths, brutal fights, kingdom-level decisions, and enough dialogue to make the world feel genuinely overwhelming. It's the kind of RPG you don't casually play for a bit. You commit to it, you sink into it. And if you love deep, complex, traditional fantasy RPGs, Wrath of the Righteous gives you a mountain to climb. Octopath Traveler Zero.
Not because those poor, impoverished hearts of theirs desire wealth.
Octopath Traveler 0 sounds like it should be a smaller, simpler RPG at first. One main character instead of 8, a more focused setup, and a story that feels easier to follow. But somehow, it ends up becoming one of the longest entries in the entire series. The average playtime is around 98 hours, and that makes sense once you realize what this game really is. A massive RPG built from years of story content, reworked into one complete adventure. You can feel that episodic structure in the way the journey keeps expanding, adding new conflicts, new characters, new places, and new reasons to keep pushing forward. The town building system gives it a different flavor too, making the world feel like something you're slowly rebuilding, not just passing through. And even though its mobile roots are visible in places, the final experience feels much closer to a full mainline Octopath game. It's long, layered, old school, and surprisingly absorbing once the journey starts opening up. My time at Sandrock. My time at Sandrock might look cozy and harmless at first, but don't let the bright colors and charming town fool you. This game can quietly steal over 100 hours of your life. It starts simple: gather materials, craft machines, rebuild a struggling desert town, meet the locals, maybe make a few friends. But little by little, Sandrock becomes more than a crafting loop. It becomes a place you actually want to fix, protect, and belong to. The average playtime sits around 125 hours, which is wild for a game that feels so relaxed on the surface. But that length comes from how many systems slowly stack together: building, farming, commissions, relationships, exploration, and a surprisingly involved story that gives the town real personality. It's not just about making better tools or finishing tasks, it's about watching a broken place slowly come back to life because of what you do. And that makes Sandrock feel warm, rewarding, and dangerously addictive.
Over here.
Howdy there, I'm Yan, President. I'll be overseeing you with me. This here's Mason. See that workshop there on the other side of the tracks? It used to be Mason's, but now it's all yours. Ain't that swell? Just think of all the great stuff you'll be able to make in there for our Commerce Guild.
RoadCraft. RoadCraft is the kind of game that sounds boring until you actually understand the fantasy. This isn't about saving the world, fighting dragons, or becoming a legend. It's about rolling into a ruined disaster zone, looking at broken roads, collapsed bridges, mud, debris, and chaos, and slowly bringing everything back to life with heavy machines. And somehow, that simple idea becomes weirdly satisfying. If SnowRunner was already a slow, patient game, RoadCraft pushes that feeling even further by adding construction, repair work, and full-on rebuilding into the mix. The average playtime sits around 139 hours, which is honestly wild for a game about fixing roads, but that's also the point. This is not made for impatient players. It's made for people who enjoy progress you can feel inch by inch. Every repaired path, every cleared route, every restored area feels earned. RoadCraft is methodical, heavy, strangely relaxing, and one of the most specific long game addictions out there. UFO 50. UFO 50 is one of those games that sounds simple until you realize what it actually is. On the surface, it's a collection of 50 retro-style games, each one built to feel like some lost classic from an alternate gaming history. But the deeper you go, the more it starts feeling less like a collection and more like a strange little universe full of secrets, connections, hidden challenges, and weird mysteries waiting underneath the surface. You can jump in for a few minutes, play one small game, and move on. Or you can fall down the rabbit hole and spend well over 100 hours trying to understand everything it's hiding. The average serious playtime lands around 147 hours, and that makes sense, because even if many games are short individually, there are still 50 of them. UFO 50 is playful, strange, nostalgic, and surprisingly massive. It's not just quantity either, it's the feeling that every tiny game might be hiding something bigger. Caves of Khud. Caves of Khud is the kind of game that looks ancient on the surface, then casually reveals one of the deepest, strangest, most terrifyingly complex worlds in modern RPGs. This is a true roguelike, not just roguelike inspired, but the real old-school kind, where death matters, systems collide in unpredictable ways, and every run can turn into a bizarre story you'll never see again. The average playtime might sit around 85 hours, but that number barely explains what this game is. Because if you actually try to explore everything, understand its systems, experiment with mutations, factions, builds, secrets, and all the insane possibilities hiding inside it, the completionist time can climb past 500 hours. That's not just long, that's a full obsession. Caves of Khud is weird, brutal, brilliant, and almost impossible to fully describe without experiencing it. It's the kind of game where the graphics are simple, but the imagination behind them feels endless.